Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we are very happy and lucky to have my colleague over here, Miss Samantha, who will be sharing with us today about how she has used Socratic Dialogue in her lessons. I have actually witnessed your Socratic Dialogue lesson last year, and it was really amazing because the boys were role-playing as UN members, representing their own countries and having dialogues with each other, having debate with one another. And I found the lesson really engaging, and I think the boys really learned a lot. So hopefully today you can share with our audience, right, how you were able to do it lah.
Okay.
But before we get started, I'm just curious, how did you get to know about this pedagogy called Socratic Dialogue, and what is it actually about?
Okay, so I think I first encountered Socratic Dialogue because it was a recommended pedagogy
Right.
for inquiry-based learning. Something that the humanities and the sciences are largely based on.
Right.
So when the humanities syllabus went for a revamp in 2016, that was when the importance for critical thinking and perspective taking took a forefront in the humanities syllabus. So Socratic Dialogue, or rather Socratic questioning, became a recommended pedagogy. So I remember when there was a syllabus revamp, we had multiple courses on conducting Socratic Dialogue or the other versions of critical thinking, or how to conduct perspective taking in class, like the deliberation model, the town hall model, and even structured academic controversy. So that's my first encounter with Socratic Dialogue. Yep.
Oh, all right, right. Okay. Must the Socratic Dialogue lesson be, like what you did with your students when I observed your lesson the other time, or can it like take other forms during a lesson itself? Maybe can you share a little bit more about that?
Okay, so from my understanding, Socratic Dialogue is the tenet or the foundation for it is really the Socratic questioning. So it can be a full Socratic seminar, a full Socratic dialogue happening for the whole lesson, or you can use Socratic questioning to actually get your students to engage in conversation during the lesson. So it can be a lesson where you have asked questions, you have actually thought a topic, and then you ask a pretty broad question on the topic, and you use Socratic questioning to facilitate a discussion or to facilitate some kind of deeper understanding of the topic from the students. So it can be a piecemeal, it can be taken out, but for students or even for adult learners to get a really good depth of that topic, or to get a good insight of the perspectives in that particular topic, it's best to have the whole thing. Yeah, it's best to have the whole thing.
Okay, so maybe in a more simple sense, can I say that Socratic Dialogue can be done between the teacher and the students, as well as students within the lesson itself?
Yes, it can be. Yes, it can be. It depends on what your lesson objectives are, what the intent of the lesson is. So that is the most important thing, that when we design the lesson itself, we need to know what we want the students to achieve at the end of the lesson. So if we want to get the students to explore deeper into the topic, away from the assessment objectives of that particular topic, then of course you are going to want a whole Socratic dialogue to happen. But if you want to just prepare your students for what the assessment requires, then maybe you can tailor it to your own liking and to what you think your students can manage.
I see. So how you want the dialogue to happen within the lesson has to be linked back to the lesson outcome as well as the lesson objectives, which means that there must be some kind of constructive alignment between what's going to happen in the classroom with the planned outcomes as well as the planned objectives
of the syllabus as well.
Within the syllabus, within the syllabus, definitely, But I mean, if I looked at your lesson last year, right? it was really very beautifully done.
Thank you.
And but I could see that there probably was a lot of planning involved. The students themselves, from what I saw, planned what they want to say, okay, as well as the information that they needed in order to say what they want to say. So I believe that a lot of background work has to be done in order for a lesson like what happened last year to happen. So could you maybe share how did you prepare your students and you prepared your lesson?
Okay, so I mean, in all honesty, lesson preparation is very important when you want to conduct such a thing.
True.
So I think I was quite lucky, I was quite blessed because this group of boys already had some sort of semblance to Socratic dialogue when they were Sec 3. So they did a Socratic dialogue based on the rise of militarism in Japan. So when I first did that in Sec 3, when they were Sec 3, there was a lot of trepidation from the boys. They were wondering what they were supposed to do, a lot of uncertainty from the boys as well. Where am I supposed to get the content from? Where am I supposed to find the different perspectives from? So what happens in the planning process of Socratic dialogue is that the question given by the teacher is a very broad and thought-provoking question. That requires you to think critically and also would require you to have perspective taking. And usually these are the kind of questions that are tested in the summative assessment for the humanities as well as the languages as well. So in our essay sections, you're going to find things like essay questions that require you to take two perspectives, all right? After taking two perspectives, the students are required to like find a weighing they're supposed to weigh which perspective or which factor is more important, more significant, cause and effect and all these things.
Okay.
So it naturally lends very well. It's a very broad, thought-provoking question that allows you to think deeper, allows you to when you talk about it, right, it reveals your assumptions as well as reveals your beliefs about what you think the question is asking for. That's the beauty of that. So when you do Socratic, so when I give them the question, it's based on the fact that they already have the content. If they don't have the content, they go and read up. So they read their textbook. They research through Google. They look at the different sources. So prior to that, there's a lot of source work that's happening. So they look at different kind of sources. They look at different kinds of sources from different kinds of players in the particular issue. And then they will see, so this particular player in the whole situation had this perspective, and this player had this perspective. So they gather all that information, and then they come up with they type their own arguments, and then they present. So what happened with the Vietnam, since the lesson was on the Vietnam War, it's a new topic to the syllabus. Right? And in the textbook itself, within the textbook itself, it is a very dense topic. That means that's a lot of details, right? And I think what our CPDD history unit wanted to achieve is that they wanted the students to know a little bit more about our neighbor, the kind of history that our neighbor had, and the kind of placement they had within the Cold War, to show how the Cold War actually reached our shores as well in Southeast Asia. So that's really the bigger picture of this particular, why they included Vietnam War in this syllabus, right? So it was necessary for me as a teacher for the boys to understand who the players were, what were the players' motives and agenda at this juncture, because there was a shift towards more countries becoming more independent in that time frame. What was the global scene like? How the Cold War had changed by the 1970s, and then a lot of things they had to consider. And so it was important for the boys to know all these things so that they can understand how the situation then had a research that also shapes the world we are living in today. The ways we relate, or Singapore relates to America, the way Southeast Asia relates to the bigger powers. So it's actually a very, when they were preparing, you could hear I think I was quite blessed. I could hear their conversations, right? And Socratic role-playing is a very new kid on the block for Socratic dialogue. So it means that they are assuming the role of that particular player for that question, and then they are trying to illustrate the perspective of, let's say, America. Why did America do what they did in Vietnam? Why did they intervene? What was USSR's perspective? What was China's perspective? What was Vietnam's perspective? So it's these things that they needed to understand better. And when those conversations they had, right, they were like, even while preparing, they were like, but the USA did this. It doesn't make sense, right? Because they're already like there in another part of the world fighting a war. It doesn't make sense to the economy. And then I think where they really had a bit of a difficulty was the boys who role-played the Soviet Union, because the involvement of the Soviet Union was a bit more cut back.
Yes.
So they did their best, and they could find the different perspectives.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I totally agree that we should include Socratic role-playing together with Socratic dialogue as well, because when the students are able to role-play together with Socratic dialogue within the entire lesson, it makes them immersed into the characters as well as the situations that they're supposed to learn. And when they are able to do that, I think they are able to empathize with the characters as well as the situation of that historical time that they are supposed to learn, and therefore they probably feel that what they are learning is more meaningful. And when learning becomes more meaningful like that, they are more intrinsically motivated and therefore more self-directed in their learning as well.
In fact, when I had one student who went on to pursue history in GC, and he said that, ma'am, there's so much more about the Vietnam War, and because now he learns the disconnected part, which is how decolonization happened, colonization and decolonization in Vietnam, right? And then he gets to see more of how the people in Vietnam reacted to the whole Vietnam War, and he can make connections, right? And he realizes that, oh my goodness, right? Like, you don't really learn the people's perspective or what the monks did and how they were totally against the Americans and the kind of culture that the Americans brought into Vietnam.
Right.
And he really makes the connection now. And then he said that it's actually quite good that we learn about Vietnam and you allow us to role play, because then I could understand the perspectives much better. And he realizes that, I think for him to make this connection, I was quite elated when he told me that, like, he said that the American foreign policy, it's always been very self-motivated, self-driven. They look after themselves. So then I said that it's not just America, it's every country
does that.
Every country does that, right?
Yeah.
But in the process of doing so, do we want to hurt other countries? That's another question you need to ask yourself.
Yeah.
So when students come back and they tell me, and they have this kind of conversations with me, I feel that they have learned.
Yeah.
I think that's what we want, right? It's just one student, it's still okay. Yeah, right.
Correct. Allow me to summarize the key ingredients which I think can make a lesson with Socratic dialogue successful. Correct me if I'm wrong, yeah?
Okay.
So I think number one, we need to find the right thought-provoking question so that we can trigger the interest of the students. If we get that one right, I think we will probably get 50% of how we want to plan our Socratic dialogue lesson right already. Second, we need to get our students to put in a little bit of effort to do the content research, from multiple sources, so that they can understand multiple perspectives to prepare themselves for the dialogue during the lesson. Thirdly, correct me if I'm wrong again, should we also prepare our students on how they should be speaking and asking questions during the lesson itself, the decorum that they should be exhibiting during the Socratic dialogue? Because I foresee that if we don't make this clear to our students, the lesson or the dialogue itself may go haywire and go into a chaos. What do you say about that?
Okay, yes, that's correct. The third part is actually preparing them to ask the questions within the Socratic question frame. Right. So there is a Socratic question frame. Remember earlier I mentioned about Socratic questioning. So the questioning itself, there are different kinds of question. So for instance, if a student says that I think that so and so shouldn't have happened, or America shouldn't have been involved because, and then once the student presents their case, and then you can have another student who can say that earlier you claimed that America should not be involved because of so and so reasons. Why is it that you say so? So those are question frames which the students need to be well versed in.
Okay.
So it's also important to give them the question frames and see how they can fit their question frames into the way they want to ask the questions to somebody who has raised a point that they want to discuss more about. Yeah. So I think the thing about Socratic Dialogue is that the one that I did was role-playing. So they really set like the United Nations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there's different kinds of models to it, right? Different kinds of placements. So they can do the fishbowl as well, which is the inner circle and the outer circle, right? Or they can do debate style, or they can do town hall method. But the fishbowl one was what I started with this group. And then I progressed into doing Socratic role-playing. So the fishbowl one is something that they're familiar with. So they know for a fact that they know how to ask that kind of questions where earlier you said this, but what do you think about this?
Right.
You know, so yes.
Okay.
And so this is where I think it's quite difficult as a teacher. Because you take a back seat, you become the facilitator.
Yes.
And you know, teachers.
But that's what we want, right?
Yeah, correct. But sometimes we also want, as teachers, we also want to have some sort of control, right? So to give autonomy in their learning and to get them to ask the kind of questions, and for you as a teacher to know when to step in, what kind of questions, where when there's a standstill, there's no questions, there's a bit of too much of wait time, you also must be well versed with that. Yeah. So I think on both ends, you have to prepare yourself for the question. You have to prepare the students for the question frame, as well as you as the teacher has to prepare yourself to be a facilitator. That's the hard part. That's something that I struggled with actually, because I like to have more autonomy in the class, but I also like to have control. So how do I play with that? How do I balance that?
Yeah, but you certainly don't look like that type of teacher when I observed your lesson. Yeah, so I guess the fourth key ingredient that we need to have is to have a mindset shift to want to let our students to be given more autonomy, and for us as teachers to be facilitators of their learning itself.
I think it depends on the class also.
It depends on the class, yes.
So which class you can give more autonomy to in terms of learning. Yeah, I think I had a group of boys who really wanted to get their distinctions. So, you know, these things really worked and gave them and you know, when you develop their thinking skills through these methods, right? Once they got into doing the essay, which is the end product of this whole Socratic dialogue, because it's part of the summative assessment, you realize the thought process, the way they explain certain things was really something that can show the insight that they've gathered about the topic. So which is and it translates to other topics, right?
Yes.
So even the earlier topics that they learned, which are more simple, like Hitler or Japan, they show more depth.
Correct. Because I would assume the transfer of learning would be strong because they during lessons, right, they prep themselves, they do the discussions, they have conversations. So the thinking like you mentioned, has been going through over and over again. Therefore, when it comes to the writing of essays, it comes more easily for them. Therefore, the translation is strong.
It's very strong.
For them to actually do well in the essays
Even the weakest one.
Oh, okay.
Even the weakest one.
Right. I would believe so.
He towards the end, the thought process was, I was quite pleasantly surprised. Because I think it was very incremental for him, very progressive for him. And finally, when he got on it, right, he was like, oh, I can think now. He's like, I can think historically now, and I'm like, okay,
and that would mean that you have succeeded in helping our students, because they are supposed to be the ones doing the thinking, not us doing it for them.
Correct.
Okay, so coming to the next question, with regards to the wider picture of education, we all know that Socratic dialogue and maybe history itself is not just there to help the students learn about the subject, right? Would you say that using Socratic dialogue in history lessons or social study lessons can help students to develop other areas within them, like E21CC? What do you think about that?
I think the humanities in general, and the languages in general, if we have the time and space to be able to get students to think critically or take perspectives, and allow ourselves as teachers to facilitate conversations in the classroom, like just taking a piecemeal out of Socratic questioning for the kids, I think you are going to naturally see the building of E21CC in our students, even if we don't intend for it in the lesson.
Right.
So not intentionally we talk about E21CC, or we intentionally form a lesson on E21CC, or we want students to cultivate the E21CC, but I think naturally it's going to happen when you have the humanities and in general helping to cultivate these skills in our boys, to be confident speakers, to be critical thinkers. But I think in natural, any subject that has a hypothesis or needs the students to investigate theories, think deeper, what is the assumption behind this theory? Is this theory still relevant in our day and time, in the sciences, in math? I think even in those disciplines, Socratic dialogue will work. Right? And I think when you get the students to use Socratic dialogue for even subjects that have proven theories or hypotheses, once students have a deeper insight into it, there's going to be a dialogue.
Okay.
There's going to be a dialogue to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to help them develop their E21CC quite naturally. But I think where it will be the presentation part, right? Where students need to develop that confident speaking part, that will be the one where we probably need to find time and space for them to present their thoughts. How are we going to do it? Right? And in a class of 40, right, it's a bit difficult.
Yeah, for me personally, I feel that the development of E21CC, right, is a bit more important than them just learning about the subject, because the development of the critical skills or competencies like communication, critical thinking, adaptive thinking, right, will serve the students better in the longer run, because it helps them to feel more comfortable in learning and picking up new ideas and new skills on their own beyond school. So to me, you might disagree, but to me, I just feel that the subject itself is important, but my hope as a teacher is that apart from learning the things that they're supposed to learn within the subject, they can pick up these competencies so that they can continue to want to learn in the future, because they know that they are able to pick up learning more easily compared to others. But like you rightfully mentioned, the humanities subjects naturally helps the students to pick up E21CC, even though the intentionality of not putting in E21CC within the lesson is there it is not there.
It's not there.
But if you so I feel that if the teacher intentionally wants E21CC to be developed, as well as the learning of the subject itself to be learned or developed, I think the entire lesson the entire learning experience for the students would be even more powerful. That's just my opinion.
But I think to actually have Socratic dialogue for every lesson, I mean, sometimes the struggle is I think to me as a teacher, when I go in for SS or for history, the struggle is really teaching them for assessment. Right? And then, teaching them for the joy of learning. And can I find the balance to teach them for the joy of learning so that they will do well for assessment? That is something that I'm still trying to figure out as well. And so this, of course, Socratic dialogue will help. But can I do it for every brood of students? I don't know. Right? So can I tailor? Yes, I can tailor, but how much can they manage?
Correct.
Right? So that's another thing altogether as well. But if you do walk into every humans classroom or every EL classroom, or you're going to see asking questions all the time, right? We always throw a problem, or we present a factual thing, and then you see us asking questions as to why do you think it happens this way? Do you think that if it can it be changed? So there's always some kind of questioning happening in the classroom. I'm trying to get them to think about certain things that are happening, so that hopefully they transfer these thinking skills to their assessment.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I agree with you that it's impractical to have Socratic dialogue for every single lesson because of the prep that's required. But we can always scale down a little bit by asking them insightful questions, questions that can trigger their imaginations and their interests. And then from there on, if we have a dialogue with them so that they are more interested to continue to want to learn because they are curious. Okay, therefore they want to keep thinking. So these are, I think, also ingredients to keep students being motivated, sparking their curiosity, helping them have that autonomy to keep thinking about things. So we can scale it down a little bit, and we also know that having Socratic dialogue for all lessons is practically impossible. But if we can have one really good one, I would believe the joy of learning that our students can get right will be something that is also very joyful to us as teachers. Because when we see our students enjoying their learning, we will be very happy to enjoy our teaching too.
Correct.
Okay, but let me throw you one challenging question. Seems like Socratic dialogue is a pedagogical approach that is more easily implemented in the humanities. Do you think Socratic dialogue can be implemented in lessons like PE, because I'm a PE teacher, or maybe even math, because I was a math teacher as well. Challenging question.
This is new knowledge.
What do you think?
You're a math teacher, but okay. I think can. Like what I mentioned earlier. I don't have expertise in math or PE, but from what I've heard from the students talking, math requires you to rationalize, right?
Yes,
logical thinking. So when you have these two, it's a good foundation to work with when it comes to Socratic questioning or Socratic dialogue. So, for instance, the teacher can always ask the boys the question like, "Why do you think this formula is done in such a manner?" Right? How do you think this formula is going to be relevant in today's world? Such a broad, thought-provoking question. There has no right or wrong to it, and that's the most important thing. And like I said, if there can be subjects that have that kind of depth, where you can actually have a thought-provoking question, there's no right or wrong to it, then obviously it leads very nicely into maybe a more modified version of Socratic dialogue. So for PE, I'm very sure they learn things about rules and regulations of games and stuff like that, and that's a good start, isn't it, to get the boys think about why certain sports have certain rules, why certain rules from this sport A cannot be transferred to sport B, right? These are good things that you can actually find out more about their own underlying assumptions about certain sports and also their beliefs about certain sports. Right. I mean, it's a far-fetched it's a far-fetched thing to do, but if you really want to explore, you can. But maybe not the whole Socratic process. But maybe piecemeals of questioning. Actually, right now I'm trying to explore QFT. I think QFT would be a very nice way to also modify Socratic dialogue. So I think that's something that PE can consider, because QFT is a bit easier.
So QFT probably can be the trigger. I wouldn't say trigger, but you can get students to think of many questions at the beginning. Then maybe narrow it down to one or two interesting questions that they want to work on, and then from there on proceed on with the Socratic dialogue process lah. You just threw me a big challenge. I'll see whether if I can.
But I'm sure
do
QFT
something about
and
it.
Socratic dialogue will lend its hand to ESS. Because
possibly.
ESS has a bit of theory to it.
Possibly. And I need to get from you the Socratic dialogue framework as well as the questioning frames as well. Really. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing whether you think Socratic dialogue can work with other subjects. Thank you very much for your sharing. We have spoken a lot. I think usually at the end of our discussion and conversations, I will ask my guests whether if they have one piece of advice or one key takeaway for our audiences. Yeah, would you happen to have one for them?
With regards to Socratic dialogue?
Yeah, with regards to Socratic dialogue.
Okay.
And perhaps specifically, how can they
I think
start off
one
easy?
key takeaway or one piece of advice if you really want to embark on Socratic dialogue is that you need to know your students well. So student profile, student management, whether they can manage Socratic dialogue is the first key thing that you need to ask yourself. And Socratic dialogue can be done with our kids in the express stream, normal academic stream, and if we are doing, Gabrielite voices, even with our normal technical stream boys. And as a class now, we have the G1, G2, G3 boys, and we are doing Gabrielite voices. I think even Socratic dialogue can be done with our G1 students as well. Because one thing that we do once we know whether our students can manage is to tailor-make Socratic dialogue, which allows you to tailor-make the question such that it captivates the students' interest as well as craft a question which is accessible to the boys based on their learning profile. So I think that's the two things that actually they should know first. One, student profile. Two, tailor-making the question to suit their student profile. Once you can do those two, I think then you can take away from that. You can actually fly with the lesson.
Well, thank you very much. I think at the end of the day, it goes back to fundamentals, knowing the profile of our students. And then second, doing differentiated instructions. So that we adjust how they learn according to their learning needs. All right. Thank you so much, Samantha. So everyone, if you like today's episode, do give a like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.